The final fundamental of pistol marksmanship is follow through. This is where we maintain our consistency throughout the shot process. Unfortunately, it's also the fundamental that is most likely to be overlooked during a block of instruction, and just giving the textbook definition of just keep applying the fundamentals until after the shot breaks doesn't quite deliver the nuances involved for proper follow through. To shoot well, we must be consistent. If we're inconsistent, our accuracy suffers and it leads to frustration. So in this video, we'll cover 3 focal areas for the practical application of follow through and some training tips to help maintain that consistency for better accuracy. So here we'll define follow through as maintaining consistency with the preceding fundamentals of grip, aiming, breath control, and trigger control until the bullet has left the muzzle, the gun is fully recoiled, and the sights are settled back onto the target. For the practical application, we're going to focus on 3 core topics. First off, we'll look at integrating all of the preceding fundamentals together into one seamless shot process. The second thing we'll look at is maintaining a hard front sight focus before, during, and after the shot breaks. Or if we're using a red dot sight on our handgun, we're going to maintain that hard target focus with a pinpoint focus on where we want them rounds to land. And then the final thing we'll look at is incorporating the trigger reset we discussed in the previous lesson as part of follow through to set us up appropriately for any follow-up shots that are needed. Traditionally, the 5 fundamentals of pistol marksmanship are taught in silos of excellence. Each one is taught individually with a separate focus. What I find to be helpful is to integrate many of these together. Stance is not traditionally taught as one of the 5 fundamentals of pistol marksmanship, but I like to start there because it establishes a solid foundation. The key element for our stance, once you've found that natural point of aim, is to have a slightly forward center of gravity. By having that center of gravity a little bit forward, it's going to help you to manage the recoil a little bit better. If we fail to have that forward center of gravity, then we tend to rock back on our heels a little bit, which results in our follow through suffering primarily the aspect of getting our sights back on target quickly. When it comes to the discussion of the grip, there are 2 separate videos linked in the playlist down below that go into an excruciating deep dive. For the recap here, we're going to make sure that our grip pressures remain consistent. We're not tightening up the grip as part of our shot process. If your grip is still forming as you're pressing the gun from position 3 out to 4, meaning that you're still tightening up your grip pressures en route, that is fully acceptable. But before that shot breaks, you need to have your grip strength already set. You're not going to increase it at the last minute. If you're tensing up at the last minute, we tend to shank the shot to the 6 o'clock. If we're tightening up the fingers, then we tend to go either to the support side or low and left if you're a right-handed shooter. Along the same lines of not changing your grip pressures is also not relaxing the grip strength too soon. There's a tendency with new shooters that when the round goes off, then they just relax. In doing so, the hands separate and then your follow through is going to be all over the place. When the shot breaks, maintain the same level of grip pressures until your follow through is complete. Once we have a good forward center of gravity for our stance, we have a consistent grip that does not increase or decrease until follow through is complete. For the remaining fundamentals, I like to group them together. So from aiming, breath control, trigger control, and follow through, this is one continuous process. Referring back to the previous lesson on trigger control, when we're leaving position 3 and we're en route to position 4, I encourage you to go ahead and touch the trigger, take up the slack, hold it at the wall, confirm your sights, stop breathing momentarily, and then smoothly finish off the pressure on the trigger. This should be one smooth, continuous process. For this, I use the adage of press, prep, confirm, and smoothly finish. We are pressing out from position 3 to position 4. As we are beginning that motion, the finger goes to the trigger. We're pressing from 3 to 4. We are prepping the trigger, holding it at the wall. Once the sights are on target, we're confirming our sight alignment and sight picture, holding our breath momentarily, and then smoothly finishing off the pressure on the trigger until the round breaks. Press, prep, confirm the sights, and then smoothly finish the trigger. So that's how we integrate the fundamentals up to the shot breaking. Now let's talk about the main elements of follow through. The leading element for follow through is consistency. We don't want any of those fundamentals to change as the shot is breaking or until after the shot has broke. We want to maintain a solid grip on the gun, stay focused on the sights. If we're using iron sights, if we're using a red dot, we'll maintain that hard target focus and maintain contact with the trigger. If you relax any of these elements, your accuracy will likely suffer and you won't be setting yourself up for that follow-up shot. For the practical application of follow-through, I want you to focus on these three things. We need to reacquire the sights for that follow-through sight picture once the shot has broke. We're going to focus on resetting the trigger, and then at some point we're going to resume breathing. Initially, I want you to focus on these three things separately, but in short order, you should be blending them together into one continuous process. Regarding follow-through sight picture, remember there's two sight pictures that you're going to have for every single shot that breaks. You're going to have the sight picture before the shot. The gun will slightly recoil. When the sights settle back down on the target, you'll have your follow-through or that second deliberate sight picture. So we're going to have a sight picture before the shot and then after the shot. If we're taking multiple shots in that string of fire, then you need to have a sight picture before and after each shot. They will lead into each other. For example, if we're taking two shots in a string of fire, you can have your initial sight picture before the round breaks, the shot breaks, the sight settle back down onto the target for your follow-through sight picture, which leads to the second shot, and then your deliberate follow-through sight picture at the end of that one. The key element here is to maintain focus on the sights throughout your cycle of fire. I do not want the round to break and you go from looking at your front sight to the target to see how you did. When you're initially working on establishing that follow-through sight picture, it's helpful if you maintain that last sight picture for about 2 or 3 seconds, because that will cause you to deliberately establish that follow-through sight picture. What I'm talking about here is specifically for your last sight picture in that string of fire. If you're taking one shot, have your deliberate sight picture before, bang, follow through, get that second sight picture and hold that one for 2 or 3 seconds initially. To be clear, I'm not asking you to pause for 2 or 3 seconds between each shot. You can use a flash sight picture as long as you're regaining your sights, and the sights are generally where you want them depending on the level of accuracy you need for the event you're doing. Take your shot. Your sight picture must occur between those shots. How quickly or how rapidly you do this is based on your current skill level. It is that last follow through that I ask the students to hold for 2 to 3 seconds just initially until this is ingrained as a habit. I would say staying on the sights during and after recoil is the number one epiphany moment that most of my students have. Once they understand and they incorporate that follow-through sight picture, their accuracy just increases dramatically. At the building block stages, I also want to focus on trigger reset. Trigger reset is when the shot breaks, we're only letting off on the trigger just to the point to where the sear resets itself. You'll hear or feel a click. That's as far as we need to go with the trigger. At this point, we're set up, ready to take that follow-up shot. All we have to do is confirm our sights are where we want them and then smoothly apply pressure to finish off the trigger. We discussed this ad nauseum in the previous video, so check that out if you haven't already. And again, once you get the mechanics of trigger reset down, you don't need to apply any conscious thought process to it. You're just going to reset the trigger. It's already at the wall, ready for that next shot when it's needed. And at the beginning stages, when we're really focused on follow through, I also have the student focus on resuming breathing. Now, to put breath control into context, for those of you that have not seen the entire series yet, the breath control we're talking about will not always occur. It depends on the context of how you're shooting. If you're doing this for self-defense or for competition, then you need a high level of respirations. You're going to continue breathing most likely. You're not going to hold your breath. When we need a high level of accuracy, then we're going to hold our breath momentarily, preferably for no more than 2 to 3 seconds, so we don't trigger those physiological things of the sympathetic nervous system that we discussed previously. I also don't want to imply that we're taking only one shot every 2 or 3 seconds and then taking a deep breath and then starting the process over. Initially, this may be where you're at, but in short order, once you get efficiencies built into these fundamentals and you're incorporating these all together, it will be quite feasible to break a shot about every quarter of a second. A 0.25 split is not that earth-shattering, and most people can achieve that easily with some practice. And again, at the building block stages, it's helpful if we focus on each of these three elements of follow-through individually, but in short order, be able to do all these three sub-steps of follow-through near simultaneously, meaning the shot breaks as the sights are settling back onto target. We are resetting the trigger at the same time. As soon as we have an acceptable sight picture, we're smoothly taking the next shot. If you have any questions or comments, throw that into the discussion below. It actually helps to feed the algorithm to show that you're interested in this type of content. If you haven't seen the entire playlist where I do the deep dive on all these fundamentals, there's almost 2 hours worth of educational content there, so check that out. The playlist is linked down below and it'll be popping up right over here. If you're finding value in these educational videos, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the all to the notifications so that YouTube isn't selectively leaving you out when new content is published. If you'd like to show your support to this channel financially, then consider hitting that join button. It'll help allow me to continue doing videos like this in the future. All right, until next time, God bless you and stay safe.